Hi Bhavan, good morning. Hi Anirudh. Hi Mr. Sopti. Great, looks like folks can hear me. Hi Hema. So we have some doubts in primarily logical reasoning and some very interesting questions in legal aptitude that we are going to go through today. Logical reasoning, the question asked is also quite nice, so it'll be interesting to discuss. I think let's just wait for a minute or two more to see if other folks are joining and then we can get started. And as usual, the whole session is being recorded. So if you need to step out or if your connection gets interrupted or if you join late, there's no problem. It will be added to your account by today evening. Yeah, yes, Bhavan, we will be having it on a weekly basis. And I'm actually also considering once the exam gets closer, we can do it even twice a week. If folks have more doubts or if there is a request for this, we can even do it more frequently. But right now, yes, we will be doing it on a weekly basis. Every Sunday morning is the plan. Okay, I think let's get started. Hi, Anisha. I think let's get started. So, before we jump into the doubts, I just want to make a couple of announcements. You must have seen the mail also yesterday. The team had sent it out. DULLB mock test 6 is now live. And to log into all your mock tests, this is a common confusion, so I just wanted to clarify. The test series and our course are hosted on two different servers. So to get your test series, you should go to this address, which is online.examvictor.com. Okay, the online is there in front. Your login is going to be your email ID only. The password would be some special characters that are sent to you. Even we can't see it. It's private. It's only for you. If you don't remember it, no problem. You can just click on the forgot password link and you can recover it. So you go in here, online.examvictor, you'll see your tests, mock tests. And DULLB mock test 6 is now live. 7, 8, 9, 10 are coming in the next few days. To see the course, of course, you folks already know this. That's how you probably got into this live session. You go to examvictor.com/login. Okay, small difference, but I've seen some folks getting confused, so I just thought I'd clarify. All right. So now let's get into the doubts. First, logical reasoning doubt. I want you to look at this image. Can you all see it? It says a cruise line is scheduling 7 week-long voyages. So this is the question. I'd like you to go through it, and this is actually all the information given. We are going to have questions 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. So a whole bunch of questions, 7 questions based on this information. So I would like you to take a minute or two right now. Yeah, I'll just zoom in, Anisha. Is this better? Just take a minute or two right now and go through all this information, note it down, and then we'll go through the questions one by one and we'll solve them. Okay. This is a simple logical puzzle, very typical, and you can definitely expect to see something like this in DU. It's a good doubt, so I thought I would share it with everybody. So take a minute and just go through the whole question. Folks, if you are not able to zoom in, just see at the bottom of the window, there will be a small checkbox that says fit to window. Right, in the screen itself at the bottom, there will be a small checkbox that says fit to window. Just click on that, untick it, and then you should be able to zoom in. So you can adjust it as per your convenience, okay? After you're done with this, start solving question number 11. That's just below it, right? Question 11. And let me know A, B, C, or D in the chat window as the answer for question 11. Only 11. We're not doing 12 or anything else right now. Just tell me the answer for question 11 in the chat window. Hi, Dr. Mishra. Acha, folks, are the rest of you able to hear me clearly? Okay, it looks like, Dr. Mishra, it looks like other folks are able to hear me. Maybe it's at your end if you could check if your computer volume is low or something. Okay, great, perfect. Alright, so I'm waiting for you folks, everybody to give me the answer to question 11. Okay, Srinivas, you're saying it's A, okay? No worries, Dr. Mishra, but this is not a maths question. In all honesty, this is a logical puzzle. And so you can actually expect a question like this in DU. They love giving these kind of puzzles. If you remember the Mercotech example that came, I think 2 or 3 years ago, very similar to that. Okay, so I think we have a couple of A's, a C, and a D. So I'll walk you through how we should analyze the given information first, and then we'll look at how to solve the 11th question. So come back here. On this page, I've summarized all the information that is given in the question. Okay. Okay. So we have been told this question requires you to apply some conditions that are given to you. Alright. As usual, I'm just going to use G, J, M, and T to refer to the ports. No point saying the full names each time. This is a scheduling question, right? You are given a schedule that has 7 blanks. So you have 7 blanks here. It's very similar to those questions where they ask you which class will happen on which day of the week, or the other problem that refers to Karina's dieting schedule. All these are very typical classic examples of these scheduling questions. Now look at the given conditions. Of these 7 blanks, the last blank has to be T. It has to be T compulsorily. It is given to us that the last port visit has to be to T. Then we are also told that the 4th blank cannot be J. This is also given to us very unambiguously in the question itself. Then the first vague statement, the question tells us that there has to be a pattern of M, G, M somewhere in these blanks. Now it is not strictly M and then G immediately after and then M immediately after, which is why I have put these double dots here. It could be M, some other intermediate ports, then G, again some intermediate ports, and then M again. So that is the one important thing to note. They are not enforcing the fact that G has to be next to M at all. Then we are told wherever J comes, G has to come immediately before it. Right? This is what I like to call ordered pair. This is an ordered pair. So you have GJ, which is an ordered pair. Right? So GJ becomes an ordered pair. All the four alphabets have to come at least once. This is told to us because we are told that each port has to be visited at least once, right? So we should see in the final schedule G, J, M and T at least once. Also M can come exactly twice. This is also told to us that the port of M can be visited only twice. Not more, not less. It has to be exactly twice. And the final condition, the same alphabet cannot be in adjacent blanks, right? So you can't have GG or TT, you cannot have any of that. You can't have the boat going from the same port and then coming back to the same port immediately. There should be something else in between. So these are the only conditions that we have. There is nothing more. The question can be distilled down to these few bullets. Now using these bullets, we have to solve question number 11. I'll go back to the question for a second. The question is saying, which one of the following is an acceptable schedule of destinations for Azad in order from week 1 through week 7, right? And we are given those destinations. So there are 7 destinations in each choice, and we are being asked to apply those bullets or those conditions that we just now distilled and see which we can rule out and which are acceptable. I'll tell you the answer right now. The answer is A actually. So all the folks who said A, pat yourselves on the back. This is the right answer. We'll see why it's A. I've got the question here so that you can refer to it again. See, they're just asking which of the arrangements satisfies all the conditions. I'll tell you, look at B. Look at B. It is G, M, T, M, G, J, T. We wanted that MGM loop to be there, right? But you can see that between the two M's, there is only Trinidad, which is T. It should have been G. There is G outside, right? There is G before the M, and there is G after, but not between them. So because of that, that condition getting violated, so you cancel option B. B is cancelled. Then you look at C. C starts with Jamaica, J. But we know that G has to come before J. We said that GJ is an ordered pair. So C also gets cancelled because of that condition getting violated. See, all the conditions have to be satisfied. Only then you can call it a perfect answer. Even if one gets violated, then you are going to cancel it. Look at choice D. D has Jamaica in the 4th blank. Okay. But what is wrong with that? We were told explicitly that Jamaica cannot be visited as the 4th port. That is given in the question very unambiguously. So D also is cancelled. So simply by elimination, A is the answer. But you can also go through it and see that it satisfies each and every condition. You have your GJ right in the beginning, G then followed by J. Then you have Martinique, Trinidad, Guadeloupe, Martinique. So MTGM. So the MGM loop is also satisfied. No port is being visited twice next to each other. The last one is Trinidad. The 4th one is not Jamaica. Each and every condition is satisfied. So this is why A is the correct answer. Any doubts in this? Any hesitation or anything that was not clear? Okay, great. Perfect. Now let's get back and look at, okay Manpreet, that's great. Now let's get back and look at the next question, which is question number 12. 12th is asking, which one of the following cannot be true about Azad's schedule of voyages? This one is actually very simple. I'll give you a hint. It's very straightforward. So tell me the answer in the chat window. Again, you just have to apply those conditions, those bullets that we distilled. You just have to apply those bullets. Folks, you're absolutely right. The answer is A. You're very correct. And you can see that. I'll show it to you in the presentation itself. Yeah, here's the question. So choice A itself is the answer, because you can see that if A happens, then you would have Trinidad or T in both 6 and 7, in blank 6 and blank 7, and that is not allowed, right? You can't go to the same port in consecutive voyages. You have to have at least one different port in between. So 12th is a simple question. A is the answer because A violates that fact that T and T would be next to each other in 6 and 7, so that is not allowed. Alright, let's go to question number 13. Okay, 13 is saying, if Azad makes a voyage to Trinidad in week 5, then which one of the following could be true? So you just have to think of it in the fact that of those 7 blanks, T was there in 7, the 7th one was T, now the 5th one is also T. And they're asking which one of the following could be true. So tell me the answer in the chat window, then we'll see how to solve it. Nisha, it could be D. Let's just give another minute. Let's see what the rest of the folks are saying, and then we'll see how to solve it. Hema, are you sure? Because in the exam, either you get +4 or you get -1. Just putting some pressure on you. Excellent. Good to be sure. Okay, so let's see how to solve this question. 13th question. 13th question, the answer is D. D for Delta. So whoever said D is right. Hema, unfortunately not. Sorry. See, we are given this, right? We are given these 7 blanks in which T is in the 5th blank and in the 7th blank, right? And the other condition we know is that the 4th blank cannot be J. That was given to us in the question. Now let's look at the choices one by one. Look at choice A. Choice A is saying Azad makes a voyage to Trinidad in week 1, which means the first blank is also T, right? So in this schedule you would have T here, then you would have blank, 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 and then T again, then one more blank, and then T. So this actually leaves only 4 blanks. Totally there were 7, 3 you have filled with T, so that means only 4 are left. That 4, there is no choice but for it to be M, G, J, M. It has to be that, right? Because we need the M, G, M loop to be there. We know that J has to come after G. There is no other space because there are only 4 blanks. So it has to be M, G, J, M. Now let's say you put this in. So then your schedule looks like T here, and then M, M here, G, J, and M here, right? But look at what happens now. J has come in the 4th blank, and we know this is J, this is not T. We know that J is not allowed to be in the 4th blank, so that rules out choice A. That's not acceptable to us. Very similar logic you can apply for B and C. Very similar. If you just apply whatever condition is given here, and you try to make the schedule, you'll see that it violates one of those bullet points that we wrote down earlier. So the only thing that is acceptable, that still leaves some room for none of the conditions to be violated, is choice D. Azad makes a voyage to M in week 4, and so choice D is the right answer. Great, I think folks you are getting it, most of you are actually following along, so that's very encouraging. These are the kind of questions you can actually expect in DULLB entrance. So very good standard of question. Now let's look at question 14. 14 is asking if Azad makes a voyage to G in week 1 and a voyage to J in week 5, then which of the following must be true? Okay, must be true. Tell me the answer chat window. I'll give you about a minute and a half and then let's go ahead. Mr. Sukti, it should update. I think if you just give it a second, you should be able to see question 14. Okay, okay, I was hoping you'd noted it down. So I'll just flip back to the original set of points that is given here. Please note this down, folks, because the rest of the questions are in another image, so you'll not be able to refer to this. Or if you want, I can show you the bullets that we condensed from this. I think that would be more useful, right? So I think this would be more useful. So you can take down these bullets, just note them down because you'll need them for questions 14, 15, 16 and 17. Okay, got all the points. So I'll go back to the question now. Question 14 is this. If Azad makes a voyage to Guadeloupe, which is G. So Azad makes a voyage to G in week 1 and a voyage to J in week 5. Then which of the following must be true? There are 7 blanks. Now the first blank is filled with G, the fifth with J, and anyway the last one is with T. So there are 3 letters filled, 4 letters remaining, and you are being asked which of the following have to be true. Mr. Chika, you have to be sure. So, okay, I see the confusion. Okay, so let's see how to solve this question. I think maybe folks are finding this a bit more tough. So let's go down to question 14. Here we are. So like I said, I said that we were given 3, right? We were given G, J and T. But see, I've already put in G before this J. So I've actually filled in 4 blanks. Why is that? I've done that because we know that J has to be compulsorily preceded by G. This is given to us in the conditions, right? So wherever you see a J, the blank before that compulsorily has to be G. So actually we have filled in 4 blanks and we are left with only 3. Now what does this mean for us? This means first of all one thing, the 6th blank has to be M. The 6th blank here, it has to be M. Where am I getting this from? I am getting this because we had that M, G, M rule, right? We had that there should be M something something, then G, then something and then M again. That was compulsory. The only way for this to fit into this given condition is if this blank is M. M cannot be put in anywhere else because there's just not enough space left. That means one of these 2 blanks has to be an M, but I know for sure this blank, the 6th blank, compulsorily has to be M. And you can see that that is what condition B is saying. Condition B is saying Azad makes a voyage to Martinique in week 6. And that's what we have. The others, A, C and D, you can't say strongly that they must be true. They could be true, but it's not necessary that they must be true. B, on the other hand, choice B, it has to be true. There is no way that this will work without that being true. So that's why B is the right answer for this question. Any doubts in this? Did everyone understand? Wonderful, wonderful. Alright, so let's go ahead to the next question now. Question 15. Question 15 is saying, if Azad makes a voyage to G in week 1 and to Trinidad in week 2, which of the following must be true? See, by now you can see the pattern. They are just giving you different variations, different permutations and combinations of filling these 7 blanks. You still have to apply the same few conditions that we distilled down in the beginning. That's all you have to do. So 15th, now you are getting a different set of blanks being filled, right? G is in the first one, T is in the second one, and of course T is in the 7th one. And you are being asked how to make it work. So let me know in the chat window. Okay, so I think many have got it. Yes, you're right. A is the correct answer. Let's see how A is correct. Okay, so again we are given that the first blank is G, the second blank is T, and the last blank is T. So there are 4 blanks in between, and we know that the blank number 4, which is this one, cannot be J. So what can you do? You need to have the 4th blank not J, and you need the MGM loop to be satisfied, right? You need that MGM. So you'll see that there is only one way to satisfy all the conditions, and that is if you do GT, MGJM, and then T. GT and T were anyway given. These 4, MGJM, if you put it in this specific order, only can it work. There is no other way. So the answer to this question is that this is the only possible arrangement, and so as per this arrangement, you can see Azad makes a voyage to Martinique in week 3, which is given here. Week 3, Martinique. So A has to be the answer. None of the other choices will work, simply because this is the only arrangement. Once you realize this, once you write it down, then the answer is very easy. B, C, D you can just cancel. Alright? Okay, let's move to the next question. Sorry, not this one. So question 16. Second last question, question 16. If Azad makes a voyage to Martinique in week 3, which one of the following could be an accurate list of destinations in week 4 and week 5 respectively? Similar thing again, guys. Your third blank is now M, and they're asking what could the 4th and the 5th blank be? Be very confident of the answer, guys. See, in logical reasoning, there is no ambiguity. You are given those conditions and you have to apply them. So the only way you're going to get a question wrong is if you make a careless error, right? They're not hiding anything from you. All the conditions are given, and if you apply those conditions, you will see that in 3 choices those conditions are going to be violated, and in 1 it will not be violated. So the only way you will make a mistake here is if you are careless. Okay. So logical reasoning is a section where the marks should belong to you. You should not give them away at all. Okay, I think there's a bit of confusion here. A is the right answer. So A is the right answer. Let's see how. See, if you do choices B, C and D, each of them will violate some rule. You just have to write down the 7 blanks here. Just write them down. Fill in those choices 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 and 7. Each of these choices will violate some of these blanks. It's very, very simple. So take choice B for example. You are told that Martinique happens in week 3 and anyway Trinidad is in week 7, right? Now you are given Jamaica and Guadeloupe. So J and G in 4 and 5. Immediately you can say it's wrong because G has to come before J. So that's why you cancel B. I'm just solving B as an example. You can see why C and D are also going to be wrong. Each of them will violate some rule. For sure they'll violate some rule and that's why you'll be able to disqualify them. A is the right answer for this. Okay, if you substitute B, C and D and if you just stare at it for a second, you'll be able to see why it's not the right answer. Let's go to the last question now, question number 17. This is the last question in this set. Which one of the following must be true about Azad's schedule of voyages? Which one of these must be true? Okay, it's not a can be true. We're looking for the thing that has to be true, must be true. Folks, I'd like to see some participation. Dr. Mishra, it's not, you should not leave these questions as being maths because they're actually logical reasoning. And maths at least is very less in DU, but these questions could come. Logical reasoning questions, you can expect to see 15 to 20 of them in the exam. So let me know if I'm going too fast or if you'd like me to explain again. Because understanding how to solve these questions, you'll certainly get a puzzle like this. And with all these puzzles, the way it works is if you understand the data once, then the next 4 or 5 questions will all be simple. So it's about just understanding the data once, and 5 questions is 20 marks, which is a lot. I think this one folks are finding it tough. So let's solve it together. 17th. No, unfortunately C is not the answer. 17th, the answer is D actually, D for Delhi. See, the reason why D has to happen or D has to be true is because every time Jamaica happens, it has to be preceded by G, Guadeloupe, right? So GJ is an ordered pair. You can't have J without having G. It's that way. Now, if it happens twice, that means 4 blanks are gone, right? D is saying Azad makes at most 2 voyages to Jamaica. That means totally you have accounted for 4 voyages, right? Because 2 J's are there, 2 G's are there. So 4 blanks are now gone, which leaves you only 3 blanks left. 2 M's are compulsory, right? We are given that in the question itself that the port M has to be visited twice. So 2 M's are compulsory, so that is 5 and 6 gone. 1 T is fixed, right? Blank number 7 has to be T, so that is also fixed. So totally you finished your 7 slots. So that's why choice D is the one that has to be true, because if you just do quick mental addition, you can see that it accounts for all 7 slots. They are not really worrying about the arrangement, and you also don't have to. You can just solve this by counting. 2 voyages to Jamaica, so 4 blanks gone. 2 M voyages are compulsory, so 4 plus 2 6, and the last T is fixed, so 7, and that's why D has to be the answer. A, B and C, they are not compulsory. They are one of those things that could be true, but they need not must be true. The strength is not there, right? There is no unambiguity about it. D is the only choice that is unambiguous. This question may seem tough, guys, but it could come, honestly. This level of questions you could expect in DU. It's not at all unheard of. So if this was fast, or if you felt that you didn't follow along, I would suggest that go through it again. The recording will of course be added to your account by evening today. So go through the question again. Just pull up only the question and pause it there. See if you can solve it yourself, and then you can come back. Okay, why not C? So makes at most 2 voyages to Guadeloupe. That is fine. It could. C could be true, but it does not have the strength of must be true. That's the reason why not C. C could be true. There's nothing wrong with it, but it need not be at a must be true level. That's the reason why C is not the answer. Any other questions in this 17th one, or any of the previous questions? Anything that was not clear? Okay. If you get questions later, also just send a note to the doubt team. They'll help you solve it. So no problems. The email ID is askadoubt@examvictor.com. So later also, if you think of something that was not clear, just send a note there and they'll help you understand. So now we have some more doubts in, yeah, that's good, Nisha. You should do that. We have some more doubts to answer in the legal aptitude section. We got some very interesting questions. Narayani, I think you were the one who sent them in. So we are lucky today. We have our in-house legal expert. We have Madan sir here available. So he will actually take us through the legal aptitude section and he'll explain these doubts. He'll do a much better job than any of us ever could. So Madan sir, over to you.
Good morning, students. Let's begin with the first question or first doubt. The exception to absence of consideration, making an agreement void regarding the Limitation Act. The question is, what is the Limitation Act? First of all, let's make it clear that there is a rule in Contract Act which says that any agreement which has no consideration is a void agreement. So necessarily every agreement to be valid must accompany with a consideration. But there are exceptions to this general rule, and one of those exceptions relates to Limitation Act. The question here is, what is the Limitation Act? Anybody who wants to give an answer? Well, the answer is, out of the three exceptions as I told you, one is that if a debt becomes time barred by limitation, which means that every date has a time limit set to it, you should remember that if you give a loan to somebody, you should recover it within a given time limit. Normally it is 3 years. And if you fail to recover it in those 3 years, and if you do not initiate any legal action within those 3 years, then at the end of 3 years, you lose the right to move a court to recover that debt. That is what is known as limitation. So every debt has a limitation. It has to be recovered, and if not recovered, legal action has to be initiated within that time limit. So the exception is that if a debt has become barred by time limit, that is, if you have given a loan to somebody to you within 3 years and you have also not initiated any legal action within those 3 years, then of course your remedy is barred. You cannot go to a court of law and enforce that payment. But if that person makes an agreement with you after the time limitation to return the whole loan or a part of it, then even though that person is not getting anything in return, still such an agreement made by the debtor will be a valid agreement. That's what this limitation exception to the limitation thing is there. Okay, we now move on to the next doubt. You see here there is a principle. Limitation bars the remedy, not the right. What it means is that once a limitation sets in, as I told you in the earlier case, if you give a loan to somebody, the loan is not returned within 3 years and you have not initiated any legal action within that time limit, then you lose the remedy. That is, you can't move a court and get the payment. Still your right is there. That is, if there is any other way of getting that payment back from that debtor, then you have the right to get it, but obviously remedy is not there, which means you can't move a court for enforcing that payment. That is what it means in plain terms. Okay, so with this principle, we now move on to the facts. After the expiry of the period of limitation of 3 years, debtor Rohan makes a part payment of debt to creditor Sohan. Sohan then levels a suit against Rohan for recovery of the debt after 2 years from the date of part payment. So from these facts we see that the debt initially got time barred because 3 years had elapsed. Thereafter the debtor makes a payment, part payment. He was not required to make it because time limitation had set in and there was no way by which Sohan could recover it, but still the debtor in good faith decided to make a part payment. Now Sohan tries to enforce the payment of the remaining debt. Can he do so? We have 4 choices here. Choice A, the part payment extends the period of limitation. Choice B is the suit is time barred as part payment is made after the expiry of the period of limitation and fresh period of limitation begins from the date of part payment. This is choice C, and D is none of the above. Now there is a rule in the Limitation Act which says that if a part payment is made, then fresh limitation starts from the date of part payment. However, this fresh limitation will start only if the initial part payment is made within the period of limitation. But in this case, the part payment is made after the period of limitation of 3 years is over. Therefore, no fresh period of limitation starts and Sohan actually has no remedy as the principle shows, because the limitation bars the remedy, which means after the expiry of the initial period of 3 years, Sohan loses all remedy. Thereafter, if the debtor Rohan makes a payment, it's alright. If he doesn't make a payment, then also it's alright. There is absolutely nothing that Sohan can do thereafter. So in this case, since the period of limitation was initially over and thereafter only the part payment was made, it essentially means that Sohan thereafter has permit B. Okay. Any questions on this? Okay, Narayani, if you have no questions and if you understood it, we can move on to the next doubt. All right. Now, in this question, we have two principles, principle 1, principle 2. Principle 1 says acceptance of an offer is complete when the acceptance is put into the course of transmission so as to be out of the power of the acceptor. Now, let me first clarify that when an agreement is to be executed, there are two principal aspects. Firstly, there has to be an offer, and secondly, it has to be accepted. So the principle says that acceptance of an offer is complete. Obviously, every offer needs to be accepted, and it says that acceptance is complete as soon as acceptance is put into the course of transmission so as to be out of the power of the acceptor. It may or may not reach the offerer. See, it's very clear. Acceptance is complete as soon as it is put into the course of transmission. That's all. That is what is required. And the transmission should be such that it is out of the power of the person who is accepting it. Once this is done, it is immaterial as to what exactly happens to that acceptance thereafter. This is principle 1. Principle 2, acceptance once completed makes the agreement binding on both the parties. So please note that the agreement becomes binding on both the parties together or simultaneously. It is not that it is binding on one party at one point of time and on the other party at another point of time. It becomes binding on both the parties simultaneously. And when does it become binding? It becomes binding as soon as the acceptance is completed. And when is the acceptance completed? That is told to us by principle 1, which says that the acceptance is complete once it is put into a course of transmission. And what kind of transmission? The transmission should be such which puts it out of the power of the acceptor. So with these two principles, let's move on to the facts. A accepts to buy B's offer of his house for rupees 4 lakhs. So offer is made by B. B wants to sell his house for rupees 4 lakhs. And this offer is given to A. A accepts this offer. So far so good. A has accepted it. Now how does he convey this offer? The acceptance was put into email, which means that the acceptance is conveyed to B, the offerer, through email. Unfortunately, when the email was put, there was distortion, as a result of which B was not in a position to really read what A had written. Now, let's see. Principle 1. There is an acceptance of this offer by A, and what does he do? He puts this acceptance into a course of transmission. Email is a way of transmission, and once he puts it into the email mode, obviously it is out of his control. It is out of the control of A to do anything to it. Now the only question remains is whether B received it or not, or if B received, whether it was in a distorted form or in its original form. In these facts of the case, we see that because of a distortion, it did reach B, but B was not in a position to read what A had written. But regardless of that, A had accepted and A put it into a course of transmission, and the mode of transmission was such that once he put into that mode, it was out of his control, because once the mail is sent, the sender has obviously no control over it. He cannot change it, he cannot obstruct it or interrupt it. So it went out of the control of A as soon as he put the send button. So from these facts and these principles, it's very clear that both the parties are bound to perform their part of the agreement. Can you see how? Because acceptance is completed as soon as it is put into email, regardless of whatever happens to that mail subsequently. Whether it is received by B at all or not, whether it was received in a distorted form, it hardly matters. As far as principle 1 is concerned, the mere fact of sending the email is enough to effect the acceptance. And second principle says that once acceptance is completed, it becomes binding for both the parties. So obviously, both the parties are bound to perform their part of the agreement in these facts of the case. Any doubts on this? Okay. So, should we move on to the next question? All right. Now, this is a question on the Contract Act. Principle here is damages are payable for breach of contract, and the purpose of damages is to compensate him for the loss suffered and not to improve his position more than what it would have been if the contract had been duly performed. So there are two parts in this principle. Firstly, that whenever there is a breach of contract, damages are payable. Secondly, it tells us what is the purpose of this payment, why the damages are paid. And the principle says that the damages are paid to compensate for the loss suffered by one of the parties to the contract. It is not to improve his position, it is just to bring him to the same position as he would have been in if there had been no contract. This is basically the principle of section 73 of the Contract Act, and this is what the principle in this question is there. Okay, now let's go on to the facts. A wanted to buy a house and he contracted with a surveyor S to inspect a particular house and value it for him. In this case, the contract is between A and S. It's not between A and the seller. It is between A, the purchaser, the would-be purchaser, and the surveyor. And the contract is that surveyor S should inspect the house and tell A as to what value he should consider for it. Now, with this contract, S surveyed the house and he put the value at rupees 10 lakhs. S, however, failed to notice the defective plumbing system in the house. So there is a mistake by S. He failed to notice that there was a defect in the plumbing system of the house, and since he did not notice this defect, he valued the house at 10 lakhs, whereas actually it should have been valued only at rupees 8 lakhs. A obviously was not aware of this defect, so he followed S's advice and bought the house for rupees 10 lakhs. And thereafter, he spent rupees 2 lakhs for repairing the plumbing system. So overall, A had to spend 12 lakhs, 10 lakhs for the house and 2 lakhs for repairing the plumbing system. Then he files a suit against S, claiming rupees 4 lakhs as damages. The question is whether his suit is determinable at rupees 4 lakhs. Now, are the facts clear? Okay then, now let's see. Had there been no mistake on the part of S, then S should have valued it at 10 lakhs, 8 lakhs only, not 10 lakhs. and A would have purchased it in 8 lakhs. In that case, obviously there was no question of any damages. Whatever subsequently was spent by A in repairing the house or repairing any part of plumbing system or electrical system or whatever, that was beyond our consideration. The only thing is that what is the loss to which A has been put because of the negligence of S in surveying the house or determining the true value of the house. So the fact matrix says that the true value of the house was only 8 lakhs, whereas actually A had to pay 10 lakhs because of negligence of S. So can you now guess the answer? Anybody? So B is being opted by whom? Yes, everyone is saying B good. It's very clear that the loss which is suffered by A because of the negligence of S is worth 2 lakhs only. If there had been no negligence, A would have paid only 8 lakhs for the house. Because of negligence, A has paid 10 lakhs, the loss is 2 lakhs. So whatever additional amount A has spent in repairing the plumbing system or anything else is immaterial. The loss which has been caused to A because of S's negligence is just rupees 2 lakhs, and this is what A is entitled to get in damages because of the breach of this contract. Is it clear? Alright, so let's move on to the next one. The doubt is this: could you please explain the nuances with respect to contracts entered into by minors? Well, the position is now very clear. Firstly, this section 10 of the Contract Act says that the persons who are entering into the contract must be capable of entering into the contract. And the next section says that any person who is a major or who is not a minor is capable of entering into a contract. So obviously a person who is not a minor is capable of entering into a contract. That's all what the Contract Act says. It doesn't say what happens when a contract is entered into by a minor. Actually, in these many terms, the Contract Act doesn't deal with this issue. So to clarify this position, we have judgments from various courts. The position was very ambiguous till 1903, when different high courts in India were giving different decisions as to the fate of a contract which was entered into by a minor on one side and a major on the other side. But since 1903, the position has been settled by the highest court of judicature at that time, that was the Privy Council, and it was stated in that very celebrated judgment of Mori that any contract which is entered into by a minor is absolutely void. It is not enforceable against either party. It is absolutely void, and the law does not take cognizance of such a contract. The law does not enforce such an agreement. It is an agreement, but it is not enforceable by law, and therefore it is not at all a contract. So it is a misnomer to say that there is a contract entered into by a minor, because no minor can actually enter into any type of contract. Yes, he can enter into an agreement, but since it is not enforceable by law, it is not at all a contract, and therefore it does not entail any consequences whatsoever. The law does not recognize it, the law does not enforce it. As far as law is concerned, nothing has happened between the minor and the other person. So that's all about it. Any doubts on this? Yes, there is a doubt by Narayani, which says that in many answers it's that the minor does not have to return the consideration amount even though he or she may be ordered to return the object. Now, Yes, there are two aspects of it. Firstly, whether the minor is required to return the consideration, if any, received under the agreement. See, if I take an example, if there is a contract between a minor and a major, and the minor receives some money under that contract and he puts his property under mortgage. Now that mortgage itself is invalid because such a agreement is not recognized by law. What happens to the consideration or the money which has been already received by the minor? Now, the general principle of law as enunciated in the famous Maury Vivis case is that since this agreement is not at all recognized by law, neither party is required to do anything on this, and therefore if the minor has received a consideration, he is not required to return it. But Narayani's comment says that he does not have to return the consideration amount even though he or she may be ordered to return the object. Now this is very tricky. Ordered by whom? If it is ordered by a court of law to return, obviously he has to return. And if any court of law does so, then I would say that the court is doing it under the law of equity, where the court can go beyond the law and says that yes, for doing complete justice, this requires to be paid. So yes, if it is ordered by the court, obviously, unless and until you go to a higher court and the higher court stays it or throws it down, yes, he is bound to pay because the court order is, nobody has any choice not to accept it, whatever the law is. The only option with the minor in that case would be to either go to a higher court and appeal against it, and otherwise we must pay it. But generally speaking, and the general law is that since such an agreement is not enforceable by law, whatever has happened between the parties, that is their problem, and the courts do not come in between. Well, then we have another supplementary question as to by Mr. Shopti, which says, what about a contract entered by the guardian on behalf of a minor? Yes, Mr. Shopti, this is absolutely clear. The law says that a minor by himself is not competent. Of course, if a guardian is acting on behalf of the minor, that is a perfectly valid agreement and therefore also a contract because it's enforceable by law. And we do have so many cases day in and day out where guardians act on behalf of the minors and enter into contracts on their behalf, and those contracts are absolutely fine, valid and enforceable. There's no question about it, no ambiguity on it. So any contract entered by the guardian on behalf of a minor is absolutely valid. Any other question? Alright then, we can move on to the next. Alright, this is the last doubt. So we conclude here, and I'll now hand over the presentation to Mr. Vivek, who will take you through. Thank you.
Alright, thank you, Vedan sir. I think that was very helpful. So folks, these were all the doubts that we had. Thanks Narayani, thank you for, these were some very good interesting questions, and I think especially the contracts part, it raised some interesting doubts also that other folks were also able to clarify. So good doubts, thanks for that. So I think that's all the questions we have, and we're also out of time. So we'll wind it up here, and of course the recording will be added to your accounts by evening today. Any further questions or doubts, do write to us. The email ID is askadoubt@examvictor.com. Alright folks, let's wrap it up here. Thanks for your time, and we'll see you around soon. Take care. Bye-bye.